Hello folks, I'm Dan. Got another little builder basics for you today. And I've kind of decided the builder basics are the way for me just to talk about whatever I see is currently going on in the builders world on some of the builders lists and stuff. And I follow the Zenith list pretty close, and I look at van stuff a little bit, and I watch some Sonic stuff. And there's a couple of the lists that I just kind of glance down and kind of peruse as I sit and have my coffee in the morning. So I wanted to talk about those a little bit. And I think part of the thing I want to discuss is what our mission statement is for choosing an airplane and why we've chosen to build an airplane to start with. Um, I'm building the Zenith 701. Of course, it's not flying yet. It's been a really slow build. I plan on having at least the fuselage and all the metal work done this year, and the engine hopefully assembled. Whether I'll get farther than that, I don't know or not, but I want to have it completed by next year if I possibly can, is my plan. So you got to take what I say with a grain of salt. I haven't a clue what I'm talking about, but I talk anyway sometimes if I think I have something to say. The choice of what airplane we're building and why we've chosen the airplane that we've chosen. Mission statement wise is obviously we all want to have an airplane up and flying when we're done. For me personally, I'm probably more of a builder than a flyer at this point in time because I don't have an airplane to fly, and I love to build stuff. If you've watched some of my videos, why you've already figured out that I build stuff. It's part of what I do, and I guess kind of who I am. It's something that I gain a great amount of satisfaction from. I enjoy doing. It's relaxing for me. So on and on and on. Hopefully, when my airplane's done, I'll be as much of a flyer as I am a builder. We'll wait and see. Although when this one's done, there'll be another airplane that goes on the bench and parts will be formed for. And it'll probably be another Zenith aircraft. I haven't decided exactly which one, but that's probably what's going on the bench next. But anyway, part of the reason I think for Zenith aircraft and why they're so popular is they are relatively inexpensive to build and relatively easy to build. I think they're a very economical airplane, but I also think to meet those criteria, they're a very base model airplane. It's not going to do the same thing that a Vans aircraft is going to do, or even a Sonex, but it depends on what you want out of the build and what you want to have when you're done. For me, the 701's got STOL capabilities, which means hopefully I can have it at a property that I own and land it right there and hangar it and everything rather than paying hangar rent. And there's several advantages. For me, the 701's going to be a basic day VFR fun aircraft that I can have a lot of fun with, that I can fly sport pilot, and we can get some enjoyment out of. Plus, I've learned a whole lot along the way, and I continue to learn as we build it. So it's done exactly what I want it to do, or up to this point, it's my plan hasn't changed. It's doing what I intend the aircraft to do. Now the 750 and the 750 Cruiser and now the 750 Super Duty, they offer a little more capabilities than that, although you're giving up something to get something. They're going to be a bigger aircraft. They're going to be a little more expensive to build and maintain and fly. They are a little more capable, with the exception of they don't have quite the STOL capabilities of the 701. When you look at the 650 low-wing aircraft, that my original intent was a low-wing 601, and I kind of changed at the time for something like that. So I may very well have a 650 on the table when I start building again. We'll see what happens. But when we look at the bigger aircraft and even the 650, they are more, in my opinion, more adaptable to electronic panels and that type of thing. To me, when we start doing that stuff, we're taking away from the easy to build, economical aspect of it, adding a little more complexity. And yeah, we say we're saving a little bit of weight by going electronic panel rather than steam gauges. But anyway, that's just, we're trying to get more out of the aircraft than maybe it was originally designed for. No matter what we do to a Zenith aircraft, it's not going to be a Vans aircraft. So when we start comparing the two, we're not doing an equal comparison, and it's not really a fair comparison. So it's just, make your choices carefully if you haven't started building yet as to what you want to build and why you want to build it. I'm seeing a lot now about, today there was the discussion about fuel senders. And Zenith aircraft senders always leak was part of it, and you need to put Van's aircraft senders in it or somebody else's senders because they're more reliable and they're a better sender and they'll never leak and all this other stuff. Well, fuel senders are something that I've paid quite a bit of attention to here lately because I'm working on my fuel tanks. Zenith mounts them in the side of the tanks. I think that's not the best choice. It's there, it works, it's worked on an awful lot of airplanes, and I've said before, Zenith knows more than we do. So when we start saying, oh, we got to change this or we got to change that, we're working on 1, 2, probably collectively on the Zenith builders list. There's 30 or 40 builders. Well, how many aircraft has Zenith actually been involved in building, whether it's through builder support or building there at the factory or whatever the case may be, developing that aircraft? They still know more than we do. So part of the reason for installing them on the side, my speculation is it is more economical than it is to try and make it more complicated to mount them in the top of the tank and provide clearance and that type of thing, which a lot of people have already done. So that system works. Is it the best system? No, I don't think it is. Me personally, I'm going to mount mine in the top of the tank. I plan on forming the tops of the tank to recess that sender down a little bit and mount it in the top. So that will hopefully eliminate the fuel leakage problem at the sender. As far as which senders to use, VDOs have been what Zenith's always installed or supplied from what I understand, and it's because they're an economical sender. The discussion came up now about you should use Stuart Warner, either Van senders or Stuart Warner, or maybe that's what Vans was supplying, was the Stuart Warner gauges, and they're comparable in price. They're relatively inexpensive for a sender. So is Stuart Warner sender better? I've always ran Stuart Warner gauges in my Jeep. I really enjoy Stuart Warner gauges. They have at least the connotation of being a better quality piece of equipment than a VDO is. In reality, is it? I don't really think so. Because if you're spending, we'll say $30 for a VDO sender, or the same $30 for a Stuart Warner sender, it's going to be real tough to have one be better than the other, because I don't know for certain, but I'm relatively certain that both of those are made not in the USA. So I would speculate they're probably both built overseas. Is one any better than the other? I doubt it. I'm probably going to put Stuart Warner gauges in, or Stuart Warner fuel senders in my tanks, is kind of what I plan on putting. I'll put some links down below in the description so you can see what I, at this point in time, plan on using. If I find something better along the way, I may change, but for right now, what I'm looking at is Stuart Warner fuel senders, and like I say, I'll link them up down there so you can take a look at them and decide if it's anything worth having. We all have the choices of doing that. So a lot of this stuff I don't think matters. We're getting concerned about a lot of things on building that to me is a non-issue. One of the other things I see going on is vinyl wrap, and vinyl wrap versus paint. And these discussions go on forever and ever and ever. And I've kind of decided I'd rather be building than be involved in a discussion about which is better. My theory is if you're just doing accent striping on a polished airplane or something that's already striped or already painted, yeah, put vinyl wrap accent on it. Or not wrap, but put vinyl accent on it, is going to be fine, and it's going to hold up pretty well. When you start wrapping a whole aircraft, and I guess I'll say, if you've got a poor paint job on there, it's not going to hold up. It's going to flake off, it's going to chip off, it's not, you're not going to be satisfied with it. And there's lots of downsides to paint. There's hazmat if you're using anything other than water-based products. Water-based products, I don't think, they haven't proven themselves enough to me to go to a water-based. So when I paint mine, it's going to be a base coat of white. The majority of the aircraft will be white, and I'll probably have a couple of accent stripes of red that I'll paint on when I paint. So there's downsides to paint. If you don't know what you're doing, it can turn into a real nightmare. It can cost you more. If you have somebody else professionally paint it, it's going to cost you more. We talk about weight. I don't know how weight's going to really affect. I think people are putting more emphasis on weight than there actually is. What I plan on doing is when I get ready to paint mine, before I prime, and of course I've already primed the mating surfaces and got the interior, got some white on the interior, which doesn't amount to a whole lot of whole lot of paint or a whole lot of weight. Why, when I get ready to paint, before I prime and apply top coats on all the outside surfaces, I plan on weighing all that. You know, it may not be a weight and balance, but I plan on weighing those components. We're going to paint it, and then we're going to weigh it again, so we actually know how much weight's been added by that paint. That'll at least give us a baseline to do away with the speculation of, oh, we're adding 30 pounds or we're adding 40 pounds or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to do that. But vinyl wrap, to entirely wrap a plane, I'm not a fan of. I don't think it's going to hold up long term. The reason being, you're going over those rivets. And I've seen some pictures of stuff that guys have wrapped before, and they show some pictures, and the wrap's laying down pretty nice and everything. And everybody says that looks really good, it's great, you know, that's the greatest thing in the world. But the reality is, when you look at those pictures, it's bridged over those rivets. You know, you cannot seal vinyl down securely enough around the base of a rivet, in my opinion, to have it hold up long term. And when it bridges up like that, as it heats and cools, why, it's going to get worse and worse. And when you install that wrap, you can pop those little bubbles with with a needle and get it to lay down. But then you've provided a point of egress for water, contaminants, air, whatever, to get underneath. And eventually, in my opinion, that's going to bubble up around there, and it'll crack out and split, and you'll have a nasty looking paint job. A friend of mine's into NASCAR stuff, and they're wrapping the cars, and we were talking about this the other day, and he said it just long term won't hold up. He said, I've got a guy that's really good at putting wrap down. He's better at putting wrap down than I am, but he says even doing them, he says they won't hold up. They start cracking out around places that have got rivets and things like that, and they just will not hold up. If you're putting it on a flat surface like you see, or just a curved surface like you see on some of the vans that they've done with graphics and things like that they've wrapped the whole vehicle in, those will hold up better, because you're not bridging all those rivets. And how many thousands of rivets in a Zenith aircraft are you having to put that vinyl over and get it to seal around the edge? So in my opinion, it's not a good choice, but that's just my opinion. Everybody can do whatever they want. That's why we're building experimental aviation. So those are my main rants for the day. You know, it's just something for you to think about. Hopefully it'll give you a little bit of food for thought, and you can make a little bit more informed decision than you had before. I don't know much of anything, but I do have my opinions about stuff just like everybody else does. And so anyway, it's another little builder basics. Take it for what it's worth. So I hope I've given you something that'll help you along in your build, and thanks for taking the time to watch.